Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I wanted to talk about how much I make in dividends. More specifically, I wanted to talk to you about how much I made for the month of June. Some of you probably know because that's the title of my video and I even have it in my thumbnail, but I actually made $741 for the month of June. Now, some of you may think that's not all that much, because after all, who dreams about making $740 a month? Most of us have a lot bigger dreams, making millions a month or more. But I guess we all have to start somewhere. Now, to be honest, I kind of disagree with any of you who thinks it's not really that much, because it's a passive income. I didn't have to do nothing to earn it. When I'm sleeping, I'm actually making money. And it allows me to do other things, right? Because I can have a full-time job, I can do anything else on the side. And to make this income, I literally have to do zero. I can walk away for a few months, come back, and my dividend amount will increase. Now, if you want to know how I do it, that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. If you like it, please click the like button and also subscribe. I tend to release new video at least once a week. This way you won't miss any of it. I have a lot of other videos as well on this subject. So, $740. To be honest, I actually think it's a lot. And I'll tell you why. Because I remember when I was 19 years old, I was actually working at a restaurant washing dishes, and that's what I was making. I was making $800 a month, $5 an hour. So just think about it. Back then, I had to work the whole month to make $800. And now, I literally do nothing, and I make this money. And it's only going to keep increasing. Here, I wanted to actually show you something. So this is what I made in dividends for the month of June. As you can see, my total converted to Canadian dollars is $761. Now, the important thing to realize here is that I'm not simply getting dividends, but my dividends actually increase every year, and the compound interest is what's going to grow it exponentially. As you can see, this is my dividends for this year, and here we can compare what I made in June in 2019 versus June 2020. If you look at the totals, you can see that my dividends increased by 30%. Now, some of it did increase because I actually added more money to it. I basically purchased more stocks with the money I added. But a lot of it has to do with two other things. One, I keep reinvesting my dividends, which means whenever I get paid, I don't take out the money, I actually buy more shares of companies. And over time, that compounds. The second reason why it increased so much is because a lot of the companies that I purchased have tendency not only pay dividend, but actually increase them year after year after year. And just to give you an example, let's look at some of the companies. For example, you can see Pepsi. Here you can see the history of dividends that Pepsi paid. On average, it's about 10-11%. And this year, back in May, they actually increased their dividend by 7.1%. Just think about it. A lot of the companies having financial issues with the coronavirus, some going out of business. Yet Pepsi not only paying dividends, but actually increasing it. That's because that's one of the companies that I consider recession-proof. They're in the business of food and drinks, and if you think about it, even in a recession, even when people don't have much money, people still going to spend money on food because that's a necessity. So I think dividend from a company like Pepsi is very safe. Let's look at a different company. Let's look at Home Depot, for example. You can see that Home Depot has increased their dividend by 10% this year. Let's look at another one, Johnson & Johnson, 6.3%. You get the idea now. Combination of reinvesting dividends plus companies increasing their dividend, what makes it grow exponentially. Interesting fact one of my friends brought up to my attention. Guess how much Warren Buffett makes in dividends from his Coca-Cola purchase? Warren Buffett purchased Coca-Cola back in 1988 and 1989. He paid about $1.8 billion for it. Over the years, Coca-Cola been increasing their dividend every single year, and now Warren Buffett makes $640 million just in dividends alone. Plus, the shares that he bought actually increased to almost $20 billion. And in total, since he bought Coca-Cola, he got over $7 billion in dividends. That shows you the power of dividend investing. I think it's funny, Warren Buffett's company does not pay dividends. Yet, he likes owning companies that pay dividend. If you look at the top 10 companies that Warren Buffett owns, every single one actually pays dividend. Apple, Bank of America, Coca-Cola, American Express, Kraft Heinz, Wells Fargo, Moody's Corporation, JP Morgan, US Bank Corp. Well, you get the idea. Because he actually knows that dividends add up. I actually found an interesting article online that I wanted to share with you to show you the importance of dividends. Here you can see that for the last 50 years, dividends account for the 78% of the total return of S&P 500. If you invested $10,000 back in 1970 and kept reinvesting your dividends, that $10,000 would have turned into $1.6 million. On the other hand, if you didn't reinvest dividends, you would have ended up with only $350,000. If you think about it, it's a huge difference. Here's a little bit more detailed graph, broken down by decades. You can see that dividend plays a big role in every single decade, especially in 2000. Without the dividend, you would have actually had negative return. Imagine investing for 10 years and having a negative return. Yet with dividend, it was actually positive. And here's something that I always believed for a long time. Companies that pay and increase their dividends tend to outperform companies that simply pay dividends or don't pay them at all. And I think there's a good reason for it. When the company knows that they have to pay dividend, they know that they have to be more conservative with their cash, with their investment. I mean, if you think about it, companies' finances are not any different than the household finances. If the person takes risks, if the person gambles and does all those sorts of things, it's more likely that he will not have money in the bank. On the other hand, if the person is very conservative with the money, doesn't take the risks, invests only into things that he thinks are bulletproof, that are almost certain to return profits, then that person more likely will do better financially. And same, I think, applies to the companies as a whole, no matter what the size. Whether it's a household income of $50,000 or a company like Johnson & Johnson, which worth hundreds of billions of dollars. When they know that they have to pay 2.5-3% in dividends from their cash flow every year, they're going to be very careful with what they do with that cash. They're not going to throw it around, and they're going to invest it very careful. And I think in the long term, it shows. I actually didn't know this until recently. I'd never seen this graph. But to me, it always made sense. And that's why I think dividend investing is more superior than simply investing in index or growth stocks. In the short term, I think yes, growth stocks quite often will outperform dividend stocks. But in the long term, I think most of the time dividend investing is the safest way to go. I do have to add that with the recent stock market crash, I did learn something. I'm going to try not to concentrate as much on how much dividend the company pays. I'm going to invest more into very high quality stocks. Because if you do look at my dividends, you can see a few companies that actually cut back their dividends or even eliminated it. For example, Ford. I actually owned it, and it did cut its dividend completely. So now I'm gonna try to invest in companies that I believe more recession proof and that will be able to pay and increase their dividend no matter what's happening with the economy. I hope you enjoyed this video. I tried to share with you my experience when it comes to investing. As you can tell, I even share with you some of the mistakes I made, my thoughts on it, and my plans. Hopefully that will help people out there and you can learn from my mistakes so you don't have to repeat them. Again, if you like my video, click the like button, click subscribe so you'll get notifications whenever I release new video. Because I like to talk not only about investing, but personal finances in general. How do you find money to invest? Things like that. Thanks again, and have a good day.